Lloyd with Armada's Exterior. We specialize in roofing, gutters, and siding. Specifically, today I'm going to talk about gutters. We have three basic profiles, and I want people to get the misconceptions out of their mind of what the three different profiles are for. We're going to start with a fascia gutter, right? This is the profile of a fascia gutter, and the concept behind this is there was a company called Eastside Gutters, and they fabricated the old-fashioned 5K, right? It was the original profile when they started fabricating gutters, because gutters weren't actually a thing in Portland. We used to have wooden gutters back in the 20s, and we started taking them off and putting these guys on. But somebody got together as a builder and said, I want to design a gutter that will conceal the rafter tail so that it doesn't poke out of the bottom, because this is a very deep gutter and this one is extremely shallow in comparison. So when they're sitting on the roof like they're supposed to, it would, you can see the bottom there, the rafter tail would stick out of the bottom of this guy. So that they were paying for fascia board and drip edge, right? Those are flashings around the whole house in order to get these gutters to function properly. So what they did is they got together and decided to design something that was deep enough to conceal the rafter tail and put this little wing on the back. So the concept would be that it sits right underneath the roof, underneath this roof line here, so there's no need for a flashing, right? So with that, they're no longer paying for fascia board, and they're no longer paying for flashing. And this could be extruded in steel. This is one particular profile of a fascia gutter. It's called the curve face, as it's got a curve to it. Most common, you'll see a flat face with a single bead across the front of it, and that's just to kind of break up the monotony of just a bland gutter, right? They don't make this particular profile anymore. I think it came out of California, and there was only a couple of gutter guys around that had that machine. So the problem with this particular gutter is that if you look at the very bottom of it, it's extremely narrow. So when we put a downspout on there, our standard 2x3 downspout is actually larger to the bottom of the gutter, right? So we put a hole in there. The hole is extremely small and usually only 1 inch around. You can kind of make a square one, but still the downspout's bigger than the bottom of the gutter. Doesn't flow very well, and it plugs up extremely fast. As you can see, the 5K, which is the first profile that eliminated, or before that one, had a larger bottom, so we could put a full 3-inch round or a full 2x3 outlet in the bottom of this guy, which is the same size as your downspout. So your water flows a lot faster, but then you have rafter tails poking out of the bottom. And it's required to have flashing in order to get to work properly. Because without flashing, if this was just straight, water will run off the roof and it'll wick behind the gutter, run down, and rot the back of the rafter tails or the fascia board. Right? So while this is a perfectly functional gutter, I think it functions far better than this because it will actually drain better, because debris and everything will actually flow down the downspout on this one. Now you see a lot of gutters out there that are 6K profile. 6K profile is substantially larger than the 5K. It's substantially larger than the fascia. So we can put a full 3x4 outlet in the bottom of this guy and water will really move, right? The crazy thing about this size of this gutter and the size of this gutter is they both come on a 15-inch coil. So a gutter machine is this big old machine that sits on the back of a flatbed truck. And we drive it out to your job site, we measure the length of your roof from here to here, and then we turn the machine on and a 15-inch coil goes to the back of it, comes out gutter at the other end, right? And we can run that to full length. That's where they come up with the concept of seamless gutters. They're both extruded from a 15-inch coil. So don't let anybody fool you and tell you this is the most new and improved and it's going to cost more than this, because it's the same coil. I put it on this machine or I put it on that machine, right? Either one. The concept behind gutters is, the big thing about gutters is you want to have them attached with brackets, right, or screws of some sort. So this is the face of your gutter, and there would be a cylindrical tube called a ferrule that would go inside the gutter, and that would wedge from underneath the inside of this lip to the back of the gutter, and then a giant nail goes through the front of that. And those tubes right there, all the same length. In this case, in this profile, it would be a 6-inch ferrule, and we would space them every 2 feet apart, right, for every rafter tail. So when I pound the nail in, it hits the tube squeezes it tight, and that way your gutters don't have this weird wave to them, because one 4-inch here and 6-inch there would be a wavy gutter. So all your ferrules are the same length, all your gutter spikes, 7, 8-inch gutter spikes, whatever, they're all going to be hit in the face and closed off and nice and tight. Problem with gutters, they're made out of metal. And we have hot days and cold days. So your gutter starts to expand and contract. When it does that, the nails work out and your gutters fall down, right? If you look inside, we have, and it might not pick up very well on the camera, but there's a stainless steel bracket inside. That stainless steel bracket it clicks to the front half of this lip and then it locks down over the back of the gutter, and then it's got a 3.5-inch screw that screws in. This can expand and contract all at once, but those stainless steel brackets will prevent the gutters from expanding to a point where it's going to pull the screw out. Because the screw is attached in the middle, right? So the bracket maintains the distance of the inside, the back and the front of the gutter, and the screw is right to the middle of it, coming out the back into the rafter tail. So you get that much meat sticking into your tails, or fascia board in which. So the big problem about this particular profile of a gutter is it does require flashing. So flashing, if this is the deck roofing here, and that's your roof, that's your plywood that the roof is going to sit on, and we secure your roofing to this. But ever since I want to say it's 1998, don't quote me on it, but I think it's 98, it's code that we have to have flashing. So flashing is a piece of metal that goes up underneath the roof and then sticks down inside the gutter, so that when water comes off the roof here, it drips down onto the flashing and into the gutter. Otherwise, without it, wind and everything will push that water up underneath this roofing here, and then it'll drip back behind it, right? So that being the concept, the problem with it is it's going to rot the rafter tails and the fascia board, that sort of thing, and then it just causes lots of damage. There are hundreds, and I mean literally hundreds of different types of screens. And what people push a lot is called a micro mesh. A micro mesh is just a very thin woven screen, as you can see, that will keep all debris out. That means needles, roofing granules, anything. It stays out of the gutter, so your gutters never get clogged. The downside to this particular type of screen is and this is with any of them, I don't care who is advertising it with a free set of knives or a trip to New York, right? They all have the same problem. We live in the Great Northwest, where the rolling stone catches no moss. We don't have rolling stones here. We have moss and algae. So algae starts to form across the top of this, and what happens is it turns green, right? And it starts to plug up all those tiny little holes, no matter what profile or design they gave you on your micro mesh. So you have to get up there with a little brush and you scrape the stuff off, and then your gutters will function again. They have other types of gutters where there's a cap system that goes over the entire top of the gutter, and water will run off the top of it and then leak down inside. That's great, except that algae starts to form. And when algae starts to form, it creates a little bit of a dam, so water hits that algae and shoots off and does not make its way into the gutter. What I'm trying to encourage people to do is to remember the most effective solution to gutters is cleaning them. I'm happy to supply you with any particular screen you want, whether it be a micro mesh with a louvered holes below it or a micro mesh with zigzag formations, any which direction. So when you see a patented, we do it and it's 100% water, it never plugs or never clogs, because your gutter will never clog. The screen might, but the gutter will never clog, right? And I see different patents where the zigzag formation goes one direction, or they've put a louver here or a bend there. At the end of the day, it's the same thing and the same problem. Until you figure out a solution to algae, there will always be a problem with them. On average, I see 5 to 7 years before the algae starts becoming a problem, so you can neglect your gutters for a good long time before you have to get up there with a quickie brush. But again, you're neglecting it. It's fine. Just get up there and clean them with your quickie brush. They have cool attachments you can screw on the end of a telescoping pole and stretch it all the way out and drag it across the top of your gutter if you want to, so you can stay on the ground. It's effective, but nothing more effective than actually cleaning your gutters. Keep them clean and they'll always work. I do want to go back and touch on this one because this is a very modern profile, is what I hear people use the term of. They like the look of it, and it is not a functional gutter. It really is not, because it literally clogs so fast. I'm constantly replacing these particular gutters with a more effective gutter. I understand the profiles are not exactly the same, and some people like the profile of one over the other. I get that. But at the end of the day, do you want something that works or do you want something that looks cool? Because if it looks cool, or you think it looks cool, if it's not functioning and water is pouring over the front of the gutter, right? The problem is that all that water coming over the front, it doesn't come over the front evenly and create a nice even flow of erosion. It comes over at the lowest point of your gutter. And when that happens, it starts to pull the front of the gutter down further and further and further until the gutter is sagging and falls off. But most importantly, what it's doing is creating a huge erosion spot located in different areas of your house. Honestly, just depends on where you're located. I've seen houses that are just like a ranch style house in a row of ranch style houses with one tree in the back 40. It means you can clean your gutters once a year, maybe every couple of years. If you got trees like we are, you know, just on your random house, you know, random house down the street just has 3 or 4 trees somewhere around. Wind takes those leaves and likes to blow it. So I definitely recommend you at least attempt to clean them once a year. But if you were in a foliaged area, 3-4 times a year. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the summer, you know. Start in the summer, but at the fall is when you need to focus on doing it 2 or 3 times throughout the whole fall, all the way up till about February when the leaves have stopped blowing. Because wind will push those leaves from your neighbor's house a half a block away. Okay. So how often you should have to replace your gutters really depends on the type of gutter that you have and what it's manufactured out of. On average, at least here in the Northwest, you're going to find most of your gutters are made out of aluminum. Manufacturers around here are supplying gutters with I think it's 30 layers of baked on, or I'm sorry, 8 layers of baked on enamel, which will supply 30 to 70 years on the paint itself. Now it's aluminum, so it's, you know, it's non-ferrous metal. It will never rust. Realistically, if they're attached properly with brackets and not nails, your gutter should stay on there forever. And you can get a wire brush out. You can have a gutter guy come out and do a wire brush in all the spots that are starting to fail, because a sealer will last 20 years on average. You might have to scrape the sealer out and reapply new sealer. All right? But this particular profile is very commonly installed as steel. All right? And what you'll see is you start seeing little tiny orange dots along the bottom of it. And those orange dots start to get bigger and bigger. And what that is rust that has managed to make its way through the enamel here. It's enamel on both sides, so that's baked enamel, front and back. All right? And those orange dots are telltale signs that your gutters are starting to rust. I'm Lloyd with Armada's Exterior. One-stop shop for roofing, gutters, and siding.